Hello, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Those that are on, let me know. Thanks for letting me know. All right, from Georgia. We've had some pretty bad windstorms over here in cold weather. I don't know if it's coming your way or not, but I think it went to Denver and then it may go on up. So been pretty crazy here. We had trees falling down and on houses, and Salt Lake got it really bad and crazy. So we'll wait a little bit, get a few more to join us. Yeah, windy in Las Vegas, but probably nice. Yeah, you guys have been having like burning heat down there. I know I have a daughter whose husband is going to medical school down there, and it's been pretty hot. I mean, it gets so hot you can't even though you can go to a pool or something, it's still too hot for the kids. So. Oh yeah, I imagine Alberta that's probably a good time of the year up there. Hello from San Antonio. I've been through I actually went to the Alamo, and I guess that's in San Antonio, yeah, and it was pretty interesting. Salt Lake City, all right, just up the road. But did you have a bunch of trees fall down at your house? I had a bunch of tree pieces, little tiny limbs or things like that are all over the grass, but it's stuff that mostly can be mowed up when we mow our lawn. Wow, sorry to hear that. Hopefully no one got hurt. I can't remember. I think one person got killed. It was it's because of the wind. Some truck was having trouble, trucker, and they opened the door and the wind blew, and the guy fell out and got hit in the head or something and died. 6 of his 7 trees in the wind. That was heavy wind. Well, thanks for coming. We don't have very many questions. I guess people are too smart now, and you all know the answers. So I think I was going to go look over here. I really only have about 1, 2, 3, 4 questions. 4 questions. So maybe we'll be done early unless people bring up some. 1, 2, 3, 4 questions. Yeah. Oh, I see Keith up there asked, still waiting to find out what happened to the indexing critique that used to show how well you were indexing. It would show the percentage of error based on the reviewer's review. So I don't think we're doing that approach anymore. That was called, you had 2 different people index. Help me, Keith, if it's not this one. They had 2 people index, and then they'd compare to see if they came out the same way. If they did, if the 2 came out the same way, then they would say, okay, it's good enough to move on. And if it didn't, then there could be some scores there to talk about it. And I think they've moved to another approach where they have reviewers. So they have indexers and then reviewers, and reviewers review the thing, and if they agree with it, then it moves on. So I don't know if they still do that score. I'm not aware of that, if they're still doing it or not anymore. I could put a little note here to say I'll go find out that stuff. Do we still track indexing score? On indexers. All righty. Okay, let's see. Do I know anything about the 1950 census, like who is going to index it? We don't know that yet. We don't really know where that's going to happen until the day before that they release it and they give the images. So I know that they're talking about it and what the things, how they want to try to do it. I haven't heard the details, so I don't have anything to share with you about it. Hello, how's California? I mean, you guys are burning up down there, man. That's like fire is just crazy. I wonder if it's as big or as bad as the one in Australia. It seems pretty bad. My daughter lives out there. She took a picture of her house, and the whole sky is just red around her, and just crazy. It's got to be hard to breathe and all that smoke. We're even getting some of your smoke over our way, and it's got to be bad if it's able to blow all that over our way and still hold together. Yeah, that was the double-blind indexing. All right. Let's see. So Gary asks, we can make memories private. How about making albums private? Nah, we don't want, right at the moment, we're just doing single memories at a time. We have to be careful. I mean, if people can turn everything private in one click, then, we want people to think about what things should be private, what things shouldn't, because we sure wouldn't like if everybody just turned everything private and then there were no memories to see anywhere in the tree. I think, and you also need to think about why you would make a memory private. Maybe some of you have some suggestions you can put in the chat that says, why would you make it or not make it private? So it seems like to me a story, even if it's, of an ancestor that's several generations back, you could have some very moving stories that can be very impactful for all descendants. And it seems like you wouldn't want to make those private. I mean, I've got some fairly personal stories on my dad, but I think it tells something about my dad and not so much about me. So I can also see where there are some stories that are your personal stories, some personal experiences that you've had that you haven't shared with your family, and you would prefer not to share with your family maybe until after you're deceased or after a period of time or whatever. And we've just done this first part where we allow people to do it private, because there are people who want to save in Family Search these special memories they have of a grandchild or a child, but they're not ready to let everybody see it. So we're still working on the other half, where eventually those stories have to become public. Private stories that private's forever, benefits no one. So, and we're still working through that. We'd love to hear some of your thoughts about it. As always, you can send email to ron@familysearch.org to help me. Those are the things I look at every day, is ron@familysearch.org. So if you really want to get me, do that. I do get over to Facebook now and then to look at the stuff, but not as consistency, just because with COVID, I'm still working from home. And I have meetings every minute of the day. So I have limited time to go dig around in all the different places where people could send me messages. Kathy, that's, I think, most of the things. Some people feel uncomfortable giving pictures of maybe little kids or things like that. I can get that, or stories about their, birth or something special. So I can understand that. But remember, remember that we don't expose any living information. So even if you tag a person on a picture that's living, you put their name in the circle or the square. I guess it's a square now. We don't show that to anybody else. If it's attached to a living PID, we don't show that to anybody but the owner. So because we want you to tag it so that when that person is deceased or it'd be when they're deceased, then that tag will appear to everybody else. So I'm just letting you know that doesn't mean you still would like to keep them public. You have that freedom to make them private if you still feel uncomfortable about that. All right. Thank you, Sharon. Yeah, those standard reasons for merges people seem to have liked that, and several have suggested that we ought to think about doing that in other parts of the product. So, and I think the team agrees that this was a nice little thing to do, and you can get some good information put in there real easily just with a click. So I think we'll probably think of some more places where we could do that sort of work. It was something that some of our designers had come up with and talked to the teams about, and it seemed we liked it and did it, and it seems to be doing really well for people. All right, I'm going to go to one of those questions that somebody submitted. This is from Jared. It says, with a possible merge, we get two options, merge or not a match. It would be great if we had a third option, not enough data to tell us yes or no, or some wording like that. Today, with only the two options, the only way to exercise the third option is to cancel the process. Then the merge hint, if we can call it that, stays in the system. Having yes, no, and unable to determine as ways to handle the possible merge would be great. So the hint, the possible duplicate, goes away. Well, the problem with that is the one you say, maybe or maybe not. Well, that has no determination. So it just sits there in limbo, and it may actually be a duplicate of that particular person. And so we end up with duplicate problems, like duplicate ordinances, duplicate work being done on the same person. So, we kind of I don't feel so comfortable about leaving it in limbo. And then the only way a person would even see it would have to go into the to the possible duplicates section and look at the past to see whether or not there's one that hasn't been addressed. And so that's real reason why we just do one or the other. And we just say, well, just leave it. Yeah, you'll get another possible duplicate thing, and you need to study it out and look at it and say it's not a match if you don't think it's good enough of a match. We work with your judgment. I mean, it's your judgment to determine which is it. All right. This is one from Jared. It says, I love the suggested wording for reasons. I also like the ability to edit the comment for individual merges. You mentioned a while back your team was looking at putting such things in source attachment reasons, a good place to start that process. It is to go to Family Search Wiki. We have a style guide there, one of the best, and then he gives me a link to this style guide on the wiki. So he's just also mentioning that the automated reasons or the selectable set of reasons are a good thing, and we can continue to do that. All right. Well, I can't be too busy because I've already burned through 2 of the 4 questions. So I need some more questions or I'm going to start making up stuff. So please add to the live chat things you'd like to find out. Maybe I've asked them all the questions. Nobody has any more questions anymore on the planet, or at least anybody coming here. So please just keep, start asking so we have some stuff to talk about. Here's the next one. This is from Carl. Now that private memories are available, a few questions. Can we specify memory as private during upload rather than mark it as private afterwards? No, well, That would only work, Carl, if you were only uploading one memory at a time, probably. We wouldn't want you to be able to designate all memories that you're uploading if you're doing a whole file, a directory that had, 50 or 100 of them. We wouldn't want those all to be automatically marked private, because odds are many of them would not want to be private. So, it doesn't seem too hard to upload a bunch and then go through your upload set and mark them private if you don't want others to know about it. I do want to make sure that everybody understands, when you mark a memory private, you can still attach that memory to people in the tree. You can still tag people in it, all those sort of things. It's just that nobody else in the system other than you, the owner of that memory, will see that when you go to the person page or when you go do other things. And so I wanted to make sure you were aware that you can still attach it. You can still do all those things to prepare it for future when it's no longer private. You also ask, can we create a source in our source box based on a private memory and then attach it to a private person? I haven't tried that. I don't think there's anything that would prevent you to do that, but let me make a note here so I can go try it. So a private memory, you create a source. You can't make the source private, but you have a private memory, you create a source, you make it a memory source. Can it be attached to a living person? I don't see why not, but I'll give it a try. But you remember that I would think you should be able to do that. Have you tried it? Carl, if you're out there, I don't know if Carl's out there. Have you tried it and did it work? So it would be interesting to know. I don't think there's anything in there that blocks or cares about whether it's a private memory or not. I think that's just a designation that Memories does. And I don't know if it would even show up in the source. It may not even show up in the source, or maybe only for you. So that's probably what will happen. My guess is you create the source, add the private memory as the element of the source, and you'd probably be the only one that sees the memory of the source. The source would still be there. And in reality, nobody can see that source anyway, because it's in your private area, and nobody can see anything inside your private area anyway, unless you attach that same source to somebody else outside of the private area. So, but I got it on my list. I'll give it a try and see. I think it would work just fine. I'm not sure why you would necessarily do it, other than, I guess, if that person dies before you do and you make them public, then that source would seem odd, because probably would see the source but don't see anything about the memory. And people may have a tendency to detach it then, because it has no value, because there's nothing in there. So I think you have to think through those. Here's the last question on the list here, and then I'll go over to the live and hopefully we have enough to take up, the next 45 minutes. I'm sure everyone's busy, and so we don't think about adding a bunch of questions to this, because this COVID's been pretty intense. I know that we're getting kind of tired of it. My wife today, she got tired of being cooped up, and she disappeared, and I got done with work, and I was wandering all around the house trying to find her, and hopefully she was okay. And come to find out, she went to the front door, rang the doorbell, and I said, I called her and said, "Where are you?" She says, "I'm at the front door." And she had gone. She needed to get out of the place and go do some things, so she felt a little more normal for a while. I don't blame her. This one's from Jared. When I go to my source box and create a new source there, either by making one or by copying already existing one, after saving my new source, in the upper left of the screen, just below the menu bar, is a hyperlink, go to previous page. When I click on that, nothing seems to happen. It does not take me back to my previous page. If I hover over the hyperlink at the bottom of the screen, I see the map for the hyperlink is FamilySearch.org tree sources source box, which is URL for the source box page. Somehow that's hyperlink is a circular reference. The only way to get back to the previous page is to hit the back arrow. Yeah, and that's probably because you're creating a new source inside the source box. So there is no prior place, but I get it. Let me write that one down. Create dupe source. Fix it up. Push. Go back. Go previous page. Push. Go to previous page. Nothing happens, right? I will certainly get that off to the team. All righty. Well, that's all we have there. So now let's go over here and see if we can find some. All right. Sherry asks, refresh us on how to reset tasks on the app. You explained it a long time ago, but can't find it in help files. I'm not sure what you mean by reset tasks. Does that mean you want to redo the same tasks you had, or you're trying to find more tasks to do? Usually what happens on the mobile, she's talking about the mobile app, Family Tree app. What would happen on the mobile tree app that we're talking about, for those who may not know, or to make sure we're all talking about the same things, there's a little bar, there's a little, you can't even see that. I don't know if you can even see that. I gotta learn how to do this stuff where I can share it. So there's a little tasks right there button. I push that task button, and what it does is it goes and looks at people inside of my tree. There you go. I have to turn it out of the light. That's the problem. Put it over here in the corner. That should be better to see. No, that's worse. All right, so there we go. So it gives me a list of tasks that I got things to do. Like this has some temple work. This one has some needs some work, so it could be a temple. This is records, right, that are on those people. And so I'm assuming that you've cleaned out your list and then you hit refresh. Is that what you're saying, Sharon? You want to know how to get a new set of lists. All right. And remember that this task list is different than the list that's on Family Search. Much of it's the same because this task list is generated by looking at on the tree. Let me start with the tree. On the tree, the task list that you see on your logged in homepage that says recommended tasks, that comes from the system on Family Search that is looking at the first, I think it goes 8 generations now. It used to be started out 4 or 5. Now I think it's up to 8 generations and like a couple down. And it looks at anybody, all of your people in your lines that qualify for that range. And then they look and see what work you can do on those people. And, is there records, hints? Are there some data problems, things like that? Not data problems yet, but things you could do there. And then as you finish them, they should peel off. Sometimes they take a little bit to peel off. And then when you're done, it's not going to give you any more because it doesn't recalculate again until you come back and log in the next time. Now, with the mobile app, it does it a little differently. The mobile app will look at all the people that are on the mobile app. So if you downloaded 6 generations and then you've been running it for a long time and you keep adding more ancestors, you get bringing down more and more people because you're extending the tree on the mobile app. Then when it goes to tasks, it looks at all the people that are in your database. It just doesn't look for that 8 generations and 2 down. It's everybody that's in your mobile app. And I believe it does it all at the same time. So in my particular case, it's been a while since I've messed with tasks, and I got 62 tasks on mine. I suspect if I burned them all, then I wouldn't get any more until it refreshes with a new set of data from the tree. And there may be a few more changes that have happened in Family Tree that need to come back down here. And then you'll get tasks here, quick tasks here. So they work differently. They're not never ending. They're not never ending because it doesn't all of a sudden go out further or do more. The mobile app will go further than the other one, but that's only because of all the people you bring down to the phone. So there really isn't a reset stuff anymore for tasks. Reset tasks on the app. Now, if you're talking about undo, then of course you've got to go back and undo what may have been changed. It says, Kathy asked, might make private the photo of a living person I put in my gallery. That's true. I mean, you could do that. You don't want other people to see that particular person. We talked about that. The pictures and info are all behind a sign-in wall. That is correct. All of the pictures. Well, that's not true. Let me be very clear here. Nobody can edit or attach or tag or do any of those sort of things to a memory unless they're signed in. But memories are accessible to people who have not signed in. They're accessible only in a couple of ways. One is we show, not now, but we, if you share an album with somebody else, for example, then they get that email with the URL in it. They'll be able to click that URL and see everything in the album, okay? Even if they're not logged in. They won't see the private ones you mark private, but they would see the ones, everything else. If you send them share the link to the actual picture, they will see that picture. We didn't think it was right for you to share something to somebody else that maybe doesn't have an account or just clicks on it and then can't see anything without logging in. Because this could be a way to bring people in your family that aren't doing family history. Say, hey, come get an account and help us out, or come and look more at what's going on with our family. And so memories are accessible if you share the link out to people and they click on that link, they'll be able to see it. So in that way, pictures are not all behind a sign-in wall. They can't manipulate the picture without being signed in. And then even then, only owners can do some things to pictures, and other people, all they can do is just attach or detach pictures right now. Yeah, Sharon mentioned that she wrote some of her own standard reasons. I think that's a great idea, and put it into Evernote, or you could put it in Notepad or Word or whatever word processing software you have on your computer, and then get a whole list of them and then copy and paste them into the thing. That's the best thing. That reminds me, if we've had some recent cases during COVID where people were trying to put in a life story or something that's special to them and wanted to work on it, and so they went into Family Search and started typing it in and spent plenty of time typing it in, and then when they push the button to save it, it gets lost. And I want you to be aware of that and be careful of that, because if you're going to spend a lot of time on a particular story or something like that, or really big note or something, I recommend you do that in another program on another file, in Notepad or Word or whatever you use for your word processing. Do it there. Make sure it's all perfect like you want it, and then copy and paste it into it that way, and then hit save, and that way you won't lose it. It's because we are keeping track of how often you're talking to the back-end servers. So here you're looking at your browser, and then you say, I want to write a note. Well, while you're typing, it's not talking to the back of the server. We wait for you to finish the whole note and then hit save. Then we go send it all to the server. So that time, your clock is ticking, right? And I think the time is an hour. Most people feel like it wasn't an hour, but that's what's on the system to say, if this person hasn't done anything in an hour, then we're going to drop their connection, because it's just wasting resources, and other people, we have more resources we're consuming than we're using, and so we drop it. So if you're going to do that, make sure you be a little more aware and write that in something else, and then copy and paste it into Family Search. What's coming that you can share? Well, I'm going to save that till the end if I got anything. I have to think about what I could talk about. When do you merge on the app? When you do a merge on the app, how long before the app is updated with the merge? It seems to stay there all day without being refreshed. Well, it depends on what you're talking about, Gary. If you're talking about the merge itself, it should happen right away. Meaning, if you merge two people together and you said, change this date to the one I want, and you brought over a new date or brought over a note or something, those all should show up as soon as the merge is completed. If you're talking about ordinances, that's a whole different thing. Ordinances, there's so many things happening with ordinances and relationships and the calculations that have to go to figure out what ordinances are valid for that person takes a while. And we say 5 to 15 minutes, but it can be longer depending on how many people are merging and how many people are doing temple things like reserving or releasing or printing. All of those things impact the temple system. So those don't happen right away. So sometimes you have to wait a while, and sometimes it could be a few hours, but normally it's within 15, 20 minutes. You have to refresh. There is no automatic refresh. You have to refresh, and you just have to keep hitting refresh. And I know sometimes it feels like a long time, and usually that's because it's a Sunday. And then people send me an email, and then I go in and look at it on Monday or the next day, and it's all looks right. And so we just have to be patient, because what happens is, as people are making changes, if they get too fast, we just load them up and save the changes, and they sit there in a queue of changes we have to work on. And we're just trying to handle them as fast as we can. So this end of the queue is working, but the amount of work is growing and growing and growing. And so it can feel longer and longer and longer for it to be handled. But eventually, we'll just all night long and all morning when we're all asleep or others are getting up, it's already chewing away at that list of work to do. And then it finally gets them all done, and then it all looks right. So just have to realize, when we have lots of people, millions of people on the site doing things, and they're doing these heavy duty things like merges, which are really big changes that happens. Because when we do a merge, but not only we combine that together, but I got to go recalculate all relationships in the entire system, pretty much the entire system, because people want to know how they're related to this person or how they're related to other users that are changing things on that people. So all of that has to all be re-updated before things start working all well. So it's actually amazing we can do as fast as we can, but we do have to be patient, especially around ordinances, if that's what you're talking about. Let's see. Nancy, it would be nice if the banner about the temple reservation extensions would show up on the temple tab still, or a link to it in the reservation policy link. Yeah, we haven't really done anything there, I don't think. I don't think we put any message other than in the blog. And that's because this is a temporary thing. We were hoping it was only going to be 3 or 4 or 5 months, 6 months. But it's going to be longer. I think most people recognize that it's not expiring. I haven't heard anybody call up mad because it expired, and so they're recognizing that the dates aren't expiring; they're extending. So it's unclear if we should spend the energy to do that. I don't know when. Who knows when it's going to be enough temples going and them doing proxy ordinances before we would ever turn it off. So I don't know. It's unclear to me whether that's valuable to do. Although I can see, if people are asking you a lot about it, I can see where that might be annoying if you haven't explained it to everybody. Sherry says, sometimes tasks appear in the app when working on a random problem, and I don't want to work on the associated tasks. Okay, I don't think you have to do the tasks. Don't you have to go to tasks to work on it? And you can scroll through the tasks and pick the ones you want. So I'm not sure exactly what you're trying to do there, Sherry, what you're trying to tell me. So try to give me a little bit more information and I'll try to answer your question. Jennifer says in the mobile app, why when adding a new person does it default to deceased rather than living? I don't know that. I'd have to look at the deceased. I'd have to look at the ID to see. Are you saying, Jennifer, that that's every person you put in? And you didn't put deceased in there? You didn't mark it deceased? Or the default button is set as deceased? So let me know, because that might be an issue. There's a reason why we defaulted to living, so that people don't just go on their merry way and enter a living person and it's marked dead, and now we're exposing living data. So I'm going to put a note there. Let me put it up here. And I'm going to go talk to my team about it. All right. Is deceased the default when entering? Is this when you're entering a new person? Jennifer, is this when you're entering a new person, or is this when you're merging or something like that? Deceased the default when adding a person in family tree app. Okay, I'll check on that because I don't like that. I think that's dangerous. Okay, new persons. Thank you. Warren asks, found a workaround for the permission required problem reported back in August. Retype the name field. It has some unprintable characters that cause the problem. Okay. Okay, that's possible. We do have errors, data problems in there, and we are blocking some characters from being put in people's names. This is probably an older one since we've done that. It was probably done before we put in that rule. So I can see where there are characters in the name that are no longer accepted as legit. So this could be stuff like invisible characters, emojis, things like that we don't feel are appropriate. Although someone did send me an email that said in California, some person named their kid 3 smiley heart emoji. That's their name. But I can't imagine how you refer to that person like that. So it seems like they're going to have an alternate name, and we hope that's the one they put in the name field. Because I don't know. I don't know how for me, I don't see how a parent could do that and make that child struggle a little bit with that. But I'm sure that they have their reasons why. So that's a very interesting thing. I think if, let me go see here. Permission required. Okay, let me make a note here because I don't really want it to say permission required. I want it to say a data problem that says there's invalid characters in the name. When there are invalid characters in the name. So this is you were trying to do some ordinances, Warren. Is that what was going on? Is that how it got you to find out that there was a permission required? Because it said that in the ordinance area. Rather say invalid characters in name. Okay, thank you for that. Warren says some people qualifying to be able under the 110-year rule could not be submitted. Looks like an edit was introduced into the system. Yeah, we've actually had some problems lately with people doing inappropriate things. And I hope you help them understand that this is not an acceptable thing. We've had some people in the system go in and edit a person who is within the 110-year rule, change their birth date so they are no longer within the 110-year rule, reserve it, and then change the date back so that they could reserve it. And that is clearly against policy, and that very well could get you blocked from the site because of that policy. These policies aren't things that we necessarily make up. These are policies that have gone to the brethren and usually to the First Presidency, and they're the ones that approve these policies. And so, I don't think you're doing any favors for yourself by trying to skirt around the policies so that you can have some ordinances to share with the temple or to go do. If you're really struggling to find names to do in the temple, go help somebody else and help them find names and help them. And I bet you they'd be willing to let you share some with you, and you could go and help them with their lines. Jennifer, can we get a sort button under the living person section under my contributions? You can't sort them? Maybe you can't. I'm going to look real quick. I haven't tried, but seems like a logical thing. How are they sorted? Just random? Okay, let me go see to my contributions. Is that what? Yeah, my contributions, private area, private people. Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember them saying that they want to add that. Let me make a note of that one. Private space. Under lists, sort. Okay, that makes sense. I don't worry too much about it. When you go out in the boonies and you come down and you find someone that's living, you'd like to be able to sort and find that. It seems like you want to sort by a bunch of different ways. Like the most recent one I added, I guess the recent one you mess with is at the top. So you'd like to be able to sort that in different ways, I guess. Stephanie, you may have already answered this in the past. I'm fine answering questions again. I know that people don't want to necessarily watch all the episodes we've ever done so that they can hear the answer. And plus, in the past, it may have changed since then. So that's fine to just keep asking questions, even if it's a repeat. What is the best way to organize the memories folder? Can the photos labeled in a way to have them come up in order by date? No, that's something that the team is going to work on. We're in the process of rewriting memories because it can't scale to the level we need it to scale to. So that team has been working on it for a few months, and it's going to take much of next year to get finished. But one of the things they're working on is to be able to order by date. And so, it's not that we couldn't do that one right away, that we couldn't do that one now, but it feels like we would be doing that at the expense of scaling and being able to show the number of memories that we have, and our searches was improved. So that's a reasonable thing. I've even talked to them about it before, that I think it would be wise to be able to sort by date, by original date thing, and that way you could do things in order. You're going to have to show the kid, the picture from when they were a little kid to older, things like that. Make a whole lot of sense. Ron, you may want to show how to refresh the data on the app so folks will know how to sync local app data with the online database. Okay, so let me show you that. Okay, so what you're going to do, so here's your tree app. I have to let me just turn that away a little bit. I know what I'm going to do.